Here on the Colour of Country Life, good to catch up again with the Chair of Grain Growers Limited, Brett Hosking. How's it going there, Brett?
Yeah, going well, thanks, Ricky. Yourself?
Yeah, pretty good. Just before we get started talking about an issue about fuel, just how's things looking for you on the land there at Quambatook?
Well, we're going okay. Geez, I'd love a rain, though, like a really good one. But yeah, just as the days get a bit longer and the season sort of hots up, then it'd be nice to get that inch or two. But that being said, we're pretty happy with how things are looking at the moment.
Yep, that's exactly what Wayne from our morning show said. He was out at the Speed Field Days and said, yep, they're probably about due that amount of rain to get things going.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, spring's always, I think every year growing crops, you get to springtime and you say, well, this will make or break it. And so this year's exactly the same.
Yeah, there's something windy blowing through on Wednesday. We'll see what comes of that. But you've got an eye to the distant horizon, not that far away, of the federal budget. Of course, we don't usually have one in October. We've got a special one with the incoming government. And grain growers are a little concerned about the diesel fuel tax rebate.
Yeah, look, we just want to make sure that the new government coming in recognises the value and the importance of our fuel tax rebate, what it's there for, what it does, and actually how it improves the sustainability of Australian agriculture.
And so what you're saying, in effect, I gather, is just leave it alone? You just want a reassurance that it's not going to get cut?
Yeah, look, absolutely. I think farmers want that certainty. We recognise there's a lot of cost pressures for the government, as there is a lot of cost pressures for everyday Australians, as there's a lot of cost pressures for our farmers as well at the moment. We're all feeling a bit of pain at the moment. So I think the fuel tax rebate is an important tool, though, that helps make sure farmers remain productive, helps make sure that one thing Australians don't have to worry about is the fact that they'll have clean, safe, healthy and nutritious food on their supermarket shelves.
And one of the drivers, I guess, of the cost of living pressures has been food prices, and some of that for farmers has been that whilst there have been good years on the land in terms of prices, the input costs, particularly fuel, have gone right up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think any grower out there will tell you that the risk in their business is far greater than it's ever been before. Effectively as grain growers, we do a lot of our spending up front. We buy our fertiliser, we buy our fuel, we buy our chemicals, we buy our seed. We go and we pay our staff, we pay our teams to get the crops in the ground. We look after them and nurture them while they're growing, knowing that it's purely at the whim of whatever weather the season decides to provide to us as to what our balance will look like at the end of it. So, having tools like that give us confidence to invest in the crops and to make sure we capitalise on whatever the season delivers is really important.
Now, that cut to the fuel excise that was brought in by the government largely for, I guess, metropolitan motorist concerns, was there any benefit that came towards farmers and the transport industry from that?
No, look, no benefit. If anything, maybe a little bit more paperwork and confusion for our growers. That's due to be reintroduced back in September, which we're not far off now. That's going to be another factor. It's going to hit motorists as a bit of a slug when they see that price jump in the fuel again. And it's important that our growers don't have to experience any extra pain as well.
And so what you're saying coming up to this October budget, you're asking, I guess, the government to make sure that they leave the fuel tax rebate alone. Just tell us a bit more about why that rebate exists in the first place. What is the reason that farmers get a rebate on their diesel and, say, a motorist on the regular roads doesn't? Yeah,
so many years ago, what the federal government really wisely did was introduce an excise or a tax on fuel. So whenever a motorist buys fuel, and that tax was intended to go into the building of roads and the maintenance of roads to make sure, it's kind of a logical user pays system almost. The challenge we had in agriculture is that our vehicles don't travel on roads. Our vehicles spend 99% of their time in a paddock, sowing a crop, making sure that that food that we produce is there for everyday Australians. So in recognition of that, the government introduced a scheme where growers could effectively claim back. So growers still pay the tax, but for that portion of their fuel that doesn't get used on a road that needs maintenance, the growers can then claim that back from the tax office. So it's been a scheme that's sat there for years. We talk a lot about, emissions and sustainability and being better at what we do, and our growers are 100% committed to that. What we do know is that the more productive we are in agriculture, the lower our emissions intensity is. So, having tools like this that help make us more productive is really important to reducing the emissions intensity of the grain that we produce at the end of the season.
And that the concern I've noticed looking at state and federal politics is often there's discussion from the Greens end of politics that it's a subsidy on fossil fuels, because the mining industry, for similar reasons you've just outlined, get that rebate as well. But you're saying that actually having this rebate actually helps to move into a direction of sustainability.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a tool that makes growers more efficient. And when they're more efficient, then they're able to be more productive. And when they're more productive, what we know is the intensity of the product, the emissions intensity of the product they produce actually declines. So, and that's the ultimate goal that we're looking for. We're looking, let's not kid ourselves that we can click our fingers tomorrow and be completely carbon neutral. But what we can do is move in a direction, and that's what our growers are focused on doing, is making sure we're better next year than we were this year, and making sure we're better this year than we were the year before. And I think our growers are doing an amazing job at that, and that, they're really focused on doing that, and at the same time making sure that there's still, no concern about the safety and the nutritional value of Australian grain, and it's an absolute credit to them what they're doing.
Well, Brett, we've put the question to the Federal Treasurer and the Shadow Treasurer as well, in fact, about what their perspective is on this going into the October budget. We'll bring the answer to the listeners here on Flow. Thanks for joining us today.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having us, Ricky, and look forward to hearing the answer. It'd be great.